Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show on ET Now. Well, it's time for our Spend with TMS segment, and today we've decided to discuss automobiles, especially given the fact that the MORTH just released the first draft of the scrappage policy. Of course, it's going to do so in bits. So we'll analyze that on how it could perhaps make owning a car a bit more expensive, or will it have no impact? And also we'll compare it with leasing a car. And, you know, the savings may be involved in both of the options. I have with me Sergius Barretto, the managing editor of Autocar India. Sergius, thank you so much for giving us time today on the show. So to start with, you know, any thoughts? I mean, it's still, I know, very early, and plus I think most experts are saying that these new registration fees are any which ways a little smaller. So any thoughts on this, and, you know, how there could be perhaps an addition of a green tax as well that's being talked about? Do you think that all of this could make, you know, buying a car and owning one a bit more expensive?
Yes, hi. Yeah, it can make it more expensive, but that's really, honestly, in the longer run. You know, the whole scrappage scheme, the green tax, all of this is now essentially what we're talking about at the end of a vehicle's life cycle. So typically a 15-year period, you know, and that's when these costs would sort of come and would have to be covered by an owner. And again, of course, there are two things to this. You know, in the scrappage policy, it's a mix of both incentives and disincentives. You know, so while there is a lot of talk, obviously, about the green tax and how the re-registration and the fitness rates are going to go up, there's also some incentive in that, you know, if you do scrap an old vehicle and buy a new one, you could get a waiver on your road tax. You could get your waiver on the registration fees. In fact, recently, the Union Minister for Road Transport, he also announced a wish to maybe have like a 5% rebate on the purchase of a new car. So there could be both. You know, there could be incentive and disincentive when it comes to your old vehicles.
Now, you know, this is just the first bit. There are going to be many more drafts as well that will be released. What's your take on this whole green tax bit as well? You know, I mean, is it sort of going to be adding on to the bills of those individuals who like holding on to their cars?
Right. No, that's a very interesting point you've made. You know, honestly, when we look at it, the green tax is definitely good for the environment. You want to get old polluting vehicles off the road. But really, you've got to look at it from you know, I would say a zoomed out kind of perspective to see how many of these old vehicles are actually on the road. And then there needs to be proper differentiation between commercial vehicle and private vehicles. You know, in countries like the UK and France, where they do have similar kind of disincentives in keeping old vehicles. It's seen that, you know, for private vehicles, there aren't that many private vehicles that are over 15 years old. If you look around our roads as well, you don't see that many Toyota Koalases anymore, for example, you know. So unnecessarily maybe taxing or too high a green tax, while it may be okay for a collector of vintage vehicles because he has that kind of capacity to pay the tax. Somebody of a family who has just one vehicle and, you know, they are keeping it for their lifetime because they're not as well off to keep frequently changing their cars, well, that could be a burden.
So just very quickly, you know, we have a new models, car on subscription, car on lease. It was present in the West, but I think it's sort of gaining ground in India. What's your take on that? And, you know, the costs involved over there versus owning a car?
Right. So these models, like you correctly said, they're kind of gaining ground now in India, and they are very interesting options. It isn't correct to say that this is the way to go. You know, leasing and subscription is the way to go because it depends for who, what's the perfect fit. If you're looking at a car in a very long term, certainly buying and sort of, even if it's financing your own vehicle, is still the better way to go. Still cheaper slightly. But if you're going to be wanting to change your cars frequently, you know, every 2 years, every 3 years, and you want to have the newest of cars, then the leasing way or the subscription way is actually the better way to go because you aren't saddled with, first of all, having to put in a down payment and then trying to resell your car and worrying about the resale value. So the subscription thing does really work out well in the shorter term if you're frequently changing your cars. It also helps maybe if you're changing cities and you want to have a new car when you go there. And then subscription, very interestingly, also offers you the option of subscribing to, well, a used car for as low as like a 1 month period too. So you have a lot of flexibility with these schemes.
Right. Well, Sergius, we let you go on that note. Thanks so much for that snappy analysis of the draft laws, as well as, of course, the new enticing model of leasing and subscription. Thank you once again for joining, and with that, it's a goodbye.